Okay, it's part three. I had to go back and watch part two to pick up where I left off. So I was talking about the Tuesday morning's job where the black lady from England with the English accent, sounding like James Bond Jr., um, didn't think I was black. What does that have to do with the relevance of the first two videos? Well, we're talking about how black people are taught to hate other black people due to skin tone. Alright? So she didn't hate me because she didn't know me, but because of my light skin tone and my facial structure, she assumed for at least the 20 minutes that she was giving me the job application or interview that I was not black. Now, this is a thing. I guess it is probably worldwide, but I didn't really count her in that because she was an American. All right? Now, that being said, I don't know how foreigners really see black people other than the experiences that I've had with Africans and that one woman with the English accent that was black. But her skin tone was also darker than mine. She was not as dark as my shirt, as I said in the other video, but she was fairly dark. Alright? Now, let me try to make this sound as non-racist as possible. It's going to sound racist. It doesn't matter how the hell I slice it, it's going to sound racist. The fact that, you know, a black person can come from anywhere other than Africa kind of fucks people up. But the fact that they don't understand how the black society works in America also is kind of fucked up. Her not thinking that I was black and thinking that I was Mexican, Hawaiian, or whatever kind of threw me off. Because being that she's black, I was under the assumption that everybody who ever seen me thought that I was black. Except for like certain white people, or at least thought that I was half black. Again, except for like certain white people. As you know, when you're mixed with black people, most black people assume, okay, well, you're half black. We don't know what that other shit is, but we know that you're half black. So, you know, that's not so much of an issue other than the fact that you're ostracized and most people really don't want a lot to do with you. And when you're a child, you're even further worse off. I guess it really depends because most mixed girls that I've talked to really didn't have too many of the problems that I can go into on video outside of, is your private parts look like my private parts, which they probably do. I've never had that issue because as a man, you've seen one dick, you've seen them all, and I'm not a dick watcher, so that's not something that I really want to get into. And besides, when you're in the army, let me put it to you this way: if you're shy, the army's gonna break that shit. Because you're going to be walking around with a bunch of naked fucking dudes, and it ain't going to matter if you're gay or straight. You're going to be walking around with your dick two shits to the wind. Get used to it. I do not like being naked in front of anybody, and that includes men and women, unless I'm actually going to have sex. I'm actually fairly shy when it comes to being naked. Now, yeah, that coming from a guy who danced around in red underwear on this and my TikTok. Yeah. But as an actor, I've learned that there will be times where I'm going to have to be, if the role calls for it, in my underwear. At least in my underwear. And when I made my personal commercial about degree in being in my underwear, that's why I was in my underwear on this channel. Now, again, I'm going to state this fairly, and people aren't going to like it. But as long as black people are raising black people by the color world system, there's always going to be some influx of hatred amongst ourselves. And we are teaching our youth the same bullshit that we were taught. I'm guilty of it. And I have tried to never date women who were darker than me. Now let me explain why I'm guilty of that. I had one traumatic experience, or two, or three, and each black girl that I have dated, with the exception of Tutu, has been darker than me. Now, why I stopped doing that was because there was a gun in my face when I was 14 by a 23-year-old. And that pretty much did it for me in dating black girls in general. But prior to that, Lily was brown, Sony was brown. I'm not giving last names. Emily was black because she was darker than both of them. Tutu was lighter than all three of them. She was straight red bone. Miss Frazier was just a little bit darker than Tutu. She was closer to red bone than brown. Um, Torsha was darker than Miss Frazier, and Symphonia was darker than Torsha. And a long time before that, when I was 10 years old, a black girl that I was interested in body slammed me on the concrete. She didn't mean to do it. It was an accident. She lost her grip, and she body slammed me on the concrete. And after that, I was like, nope, nope, nope. Hi. And her name was Tara, by the way. Hi, Tara. I haven't forgotten you. You're still pretty. It's just that I didn't want girls darker than me. You were not the cause of that. The other girls that I mentioned were absolutely the cause of that. You're not black enough. You're not black enough. You're never going to be good enough for black girls. And I had to make a choice. Wait for the right black girl to come along or dive into the dating pool of other girls. I chose to dive into the dating pool of other girls. And FYI, for anybody who's going to come at me with Asian fever or yellow fever, my very first girlfriend, who again, I am not sure if it was real, if I fell through a time warp, if she was a figment of my imagination, because I do not see her in the kindergarten yearbook picture, her name was Jillian. She was half white and half Eskimo. And Native Americans are part Asian, and Eskimos are Native Americans, whether you want to claim them or not, they are. So, that was that. I remember her face clear as day as 5-year-old James. And now, when I looked for her in the yearbook picture, and we still have the yearbook picture, she's not there. She literally is not there. Unless there's something wrong with my memory. I have had a few concussions, and concussions do affect your memory on some level or another. So therefore. But I remember her. At least I remember her face or the image of her face in my head. And again, like I said, I've had some concussions. I've had at least 5 of them. Maybe more. But I've had some concussions. So, with the gun in my face, that situation kind of did it in. And that guy was browner than me. The girl was darker than us both. Alright? Blacker the berry, sweeter the juice, that kind of situation. Now, after that little situation, I've never dated another black girl since. And you guys can get mad at me all you want. I've only been attracted to Native American, Asian girls, white girls. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. If I am lucky enough to marry my crush, she happens to be Chinese. Okay? Now, I did have a Korean girlfriend. She was my fiance. The rings are over there. I never got the chance to give them to her. I really haven't found out what I should do with them. I mean, I can't give them back to the store because they're like 11 years old. So they're just sitting over there. Probably going to toss them or bury them or something. And when we broke up, I bought her a lot of gifts that she's never going to get. I tried to give them to her. Her dad mailed them back to me. And her dad's white because she's adopted. Enough said. Anyway, black people have been raising black people to hate black people because of the color wheel. The darker people have been raised to hate the brown skins and the light skins. The brown skins have been raised to hate the dark skins and the lighter light skins. The light skins have been raised to hate the light skins that are darker than them and the darker skinned individuals. I, on the other hand, come from a family who has multicolored skin tones in our family. So we have not been raised to hate anybody due to their skin tone. But if you're an asshole or a son of a bitch, doesn't matter what your skin tone is. Doesn't matter if you're white. Doesn't matter if you're black. Doesn't matter if you're Asian. If you're a dick, you're a dick. And I don't like you. It's just that simple. I do have another video about being honest and not liking me, which I will make after this. It's going to be a short video, I hope. But yeah, white people don't have the brown paper bag test. Asian people don't have the brown paper bag test. Native American Asians may have the brown bag test. But for the most part, if you catch up with Native TikTok, there's been a lot of stuff going on about light skin and dark skin natives. Alright, so that's not relevant here. This video is about black people being raised to hate other black people, and it's self-taught. Black people made me hate me, and black people made me hate them. And the thing about that is that if I have to be honest, I've had more racist incidents from darker and browner black people. Not so much as the white passing of the mulatto passing type of black people, but also those are the same people who have no idea that I'm part black. They'll be the first ones to call me a Mexican, or they'll be the first ones to call me, hey, you think you're Tiger Woods, or hey, you think you're the Little Rock. See the eyebrow. Anyway, for their information, I'm actually only a year and a few months younger than The Rock. Okay? That's it. That being said, shout out to Dwayne Johnson. Anyway, and give me a job, Dwayne, because nobody's watching me on YouTube. Anyway, point being made is that mixed kids have it pretty bad. And especially from the black community, depending on our skin tone. If we're mixed and we're brown, like mid-brown, darker than me, darker than The Rock, darker than Tiger, like the football player, it's more about his facial structure that he'll probably get honed on. For me, it's facial structure and skin tone, you know, because my true skin tone is up here. I don't wear long sleeve shirts until wintertime. We all know in Virginia we get some fracked up ass winter times, which is why the inside of my arms are light, the outside of my arms are dark. I am multifaceted in color. Just go with it. Just go with it. So you know when a young black person has a child and their child's a chocolate drop, which means they're like a Hershey's Kiss. They're not exceptionally dark. They're not exceptionally light. They're in that middle cusp where they can go one way or the other. Versus when the kid is hyper light and white passing versus hyper dark and black to the degree that you can't hide your blackness from anyone. This thing has gone on long enough. This has gone on for a fucking century. Maybe more. But it all started with slavery. It all started with the fact that some of my ancestors may have been raped by white men. May have willingly been in love with white men. Don't know. Eroticism is a thing. No. The forbidden fruit is a thing. It's the same thing that happened to celestial brides. It's the same thing that happened to squaws when they have wandered too far away from the village and stumbled into a white person's camp and never to be seen again, a.k.a. Pocahontas. You know, there are many different stories of Pocahontas. I just thought I'd throw that in there. And so, bringing that back around, you know, when black people started doing the brown bag tests, when black people started hating light-skinned black people for being closer to white, middle-skinned black people for being able to swing both sides, and darker-skinned black people for being closer to their African heritage, it's an even-out circle. The light-skinned black people are a little jealous that the dark-skinned black people have more cultural skin tones and have more cultural features, where they will never have that unless they marry into that. And same for them. And then there's the middle people who are kind of both. And then, you know, there's other features and stuff. And the thing is that when we all look at each other and you're checking your child, it's like you see that darker black people, you don't hang with them because we're lighter and we're brighter and we're better. And on the backside of that trail, you'll see that black person that's saying, son, don't marry into that because they have white blood in them and we don't like white-blooded black people. And don't marry into that because they have Asiatic features or native features and we don't want that. We want to keep the bloodline purely African. These are things that happen amongst the black people in our world. These are things that people don't want to talk about. These are the things why black people will never get along because black people have taught other black people to hate black people. As a victim of that shit, I can speak on this because I am part black, part Cherokee, and part white. I can tell you guys that we're all wrong. And you all will probably do this to me. That's the middle finger, by the way. Now, this is the deuces. Now, let me explain this to y'all. Until we sit down and really take this shit seriously, stop comparing how white a light-skinned black person is, stop comparing how African a dark-skinned black person is, this shit's not going to end. See, black people, we have many facets of color. And each of us have our own story. we're not getting represented well because, they never let the super black guy be the hero. Wesley Snipes even said that shit. But the thing is, there can be dark heroes and light villains. However, society chooses no, because the darker you are, you can't be a pure-hearted, good individual. I call bullshit on that, but I don't write movies for Hollywood. Because if they did, I'd be the star of them. That could go both ways. Because if you think about it, the closest thing that the devil can do is look like a good guy, aka the Antichrist. And if you fall into his trap, then it's easier for him to slit your throat and steal your soul. Because you fell in love with someone who was angelically bright and super looking good and all kinds of other stuff. Everything that you would expect the devil to not look like. You see where we're going? And so the devil within all of us is pretty much the same thing. Light-skinned people, you don't like them because they're brown. They're really close to black. They're blacker than you. You don't want them. We don't want them in our bloodline. Do not date that motherfucker. Do not fall in love with that motherfucker. Stay away from him. If you have to date anybody, you go date that Asian girl or you go date that white girl. But you do not date that dark black girl. How many of y'all have heard that? Probably a majority. On the black side of that, the black cats are telling them the same thing. You see that light-skinned girl right there? You see that white girl right there? You see that Asian girl right there? You stay the fuck away from all of them. You only date people your skin tone. We want to keep this family pure black. We're going to keep it as close to the African roots as possible. And how many of you have heard this? James, you need to get yourself a black girl. Stop fucking with these white and Asian girls and start fucking with these black girls. And like I said in video 1 and video 2, I've had some bad experiences with black girls, which is why I don't date them. And I'm not saying all black girls are the same. I'm also, sadly, not really attracted to them. To each their own. You cannot force me to date someone that I'm not attracted to. It's just that simple. And yes, I may have a little bit of yellow fever because to me, Asian girls and Native American girls are the most beautiful girls in the world. My chances of getting with one is probably slim, which is probably why I want them more. Which is how yellow fever is started. Because you want what you can't have, that forbidden fruit. But here's the thing. You don't know what you can't have until you actually go and talk to someone. And then again, you also, just like in acting, need to be able to handle rejection very well. I'm so used to saying no or hearing no that I just expect it. I'm expecting to hear a no. Straight up a no. I'm expecting to hear a no. My first real relationship with an Asian girl was my Korean ex-fiancée, and she thought I was cute. I thought she was gorgeous, but she thought I was cute. And every girl prior to that, well, except for a couple of Asians that thought I was cute, but they had boyfriends. Hi, Hannah. Both Hannahs. One Hannah, I got set up by her brother Joe, but he didn't know I was black until I told him. He's like, well, still, you don't look black. So, yeah. And he tried to hook me up with his sister, because his sister probably was dating a guy that Joe couldn't stand. Anyway, moving on. So, these things happen. I have had Asian girls that thought I was cute, and I did try to speak to them. However, they had boyfriends. I am not a home wrecker. I will never wreck anybody's home, because I've had my home wrecked plenty of times. Every girlfriend that I've had has cheated on me. Every one of them. I have grown numb to this. I have learned that if I move too slow, they'll cheat. If I move too fast, they'll cheat. So what am I to do? Just let nature take its course. Because there's nothing I can do about them cheating on me. I know, off track. But it's on track, because when you think about it, if you got your family members who are black telling you that you should only date black girls, how can I, if all the black girls or the brown girls or the white passing girls have been told, don't date the half-breed. Don't date that one. Don't date this one. We don't want our children coming out yellow. Now, how many of you have been told that? No one's going to reply to this, but at the same time, how many times have you been told by somebody, we don't want you dating someone who does not look like you? We don't want you dating people who are mixed, because what will we call the children? Who's going to love the children besides the parents? This happens in a lot of multicultural relationships. But this would not happen if the dark-skinned people weren't taught to hate the brown-skinned and the light-skinned people, if the brown-skinned people wasn't taught to hate the dark-skinned and the white-passing and lighter people, and if the lighter people and the white-passing people weren't taught to hate the brown people and the black people. I want to end on a positive note. If we all gather around and sit down and actually talked about why we raise our children this way, who hurt somebody in your family of my color, of their color, of their color, to make you raise your family to hate these people in the black community so bad that you don't want nothing to do with them? This is how we got here. How did we get away from here? Think about that. This is Kung Fu Havoc number 2. Be seeing